Okay, so for the purposes of this video, I've categorized the book piles according to country because I read a lot about different cultures and that's the only way that made sense for the format of this video. Also, I have a category for fantasy and nonfiction, but you don't want to hear me talking, so let's start with Asia. So of course I have Crazy Rich Asians by Kevin Kwan, China Rich Girlfriend by Kevin Kwan, and Rich People Problems by Kevin Kwan, Sarong Party Girls by Cheryl Lu Lien Tan, The Namesake by Jhumpa Lahiri. Jhumpa Lahiri is a Pulitzer Prize winner and she went to BU, so go alumni. But also this book is set in Boston, which is where I live currently, so it was really nice to follow along with the character's journey as he goes from Boston to New York and all these places that I've been to. But I also really connected to this book because it's dealing with an Indian American who's struggling between two cultures, and I can really understand that as an Orthodox Jew who lives in America and also is stuck between two cultures. Raise the Red Lantern by Su Tong, The King of Trees by Ah Chung. I had to read this for school, but very eye-opening about the Cultural Revolution. The Weight of Our Sky by Hannah Alkaf, Coin Locker Babies by Ryu Murakami. Okay, this is by far the strangest book I have ever read. There are babies that are left in coin lockers, there are 17-year-old models with pet crocodiles, there are people who murder their mothers and want to blow up Tokyo. Like, if you want like a real trip, read this book. After Dark by Haruki Murakami, Naoko by Kaigo Higashino, one of my favorite books of all time. The Devotion of Suspect X, also by Kaigo Higashino. Somewhere Only We Know by Maureen Gu. This is not actually a Hong Kong book, but it's set in Hong Kong, so I kind of cheated a little bit. In Order to Live by Yeonmi Park. Free Food for Millionaires by Min-jin Lee. Pachinko, also by Min-jin Lee, and one of my favorite books, Palgan Moja, which translates to Red Riding Hood. I bought this for myself so that I can transliterate into Korean. I have yet to finish this book, but we're gonna get there. Let's move on to Europe. The 100-Year-Old Man Who Climbed Out the Window and Disappeared by Jonas Jonasson. Honestly, please read this book. It will not only remind you that your grandpa is probably a really cool person once you get to know him, but it also reminds you that you are never too old to do anything. Also, it's just really straight up funny. A Man Called Ove by Frederick Backman. The Elegance of the Hedgehog by Muriel Barbary. This book is so French. There are like actual paragraphs dedicated to just biting into a piece of bittersweet chocolate while reading Tolstoy on a couch, petting your kitten. But it also deals a lot with social class and the purpose of life. It's very philosophical and very deep. And if you like books about people sitting in coffee shop, philosophizing about life, this book is for you. The Shadow of the Wind by Carlos Ruiz Zafón. In the Garden of Beasts by Erik Larson. The Book Thief by Markus Zusak, also not a German writer, but set in Germany. This is also my favorite book of all time, so please read it. The Midnight Rose by Lucinda Riley. A Room with a View by E.M. Forster. The Carnival at Bray by Jessie Ann Foley. If you like Nirvana or the 90s or Ireland, anything to do with any of these topics, oh my god, this book is like totally for you. I was like obsessed with all of those things when I was 18, and secretly I still am obsessed with all of those things. So, oh my god, Half of a Yellow Sun by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. I Am the Messenger by Markus Zusak. It focuses on this 19-year-old cab driver named Ed whose life is going nowhere until one day he opens his mailbox and he sees this mysterious playing card in the mail with these 3 addresses, and then he goes to the 3 addresses and he realizes that he has to like help all these people, and then he starts getting clues and more people that he needs to help until like the end of the book, and then he realizes that he's not actually the messenger, he's the message, and he needs to help himself, and oh my god, it's so inspiring. North America. American Street by Ibi Zoboi. The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. If You Find Me by Emily Murdoch. The Devil in the White City by Erik Larson. Educated by Tara Westover. I'm currently reading this book and I haven't even finished it, but I am so blown away. This is a memoir, so everything in here is true, but it literally reads like fiction because Tara's life is crazy and like just so inspiring. She was raised by these survivalists in Idaho who didn't believe in like technology or education or the government or traditional medicine. It's like this struggle of like trying to be connected to the world and to education, but to also have that connection with her family. The Only Pirate at the Party by Lindsay Sterling. Oh, she signed it. See? Privilege by Shamus Khan. So this is actually a sociological case study on the elite high schoolers who go to St. Paul's, which is like this elite American boarding school in the United States. So Shamus Khan actually went here and he really delves into the culture of the rich and the 1% in America and what makes them act and behave and think the way they do as opposed to various other Americans. And as a challenge, I actually challenge you to read this alongside watching Gossip Girl, because the correlations between this book and that show are astounding, and it gave me such a newfound respect for Serena van der Woodsen. Permanent Record by Mary H.K. Choi, A Tree Grows in Brooklyn by Betty Smith, The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin, Sex and Vanity by Kevin Kwan. Kevin! Oh, Kevin. Okay, so basically this book is a retelling of A Room with a View, which is, you know, that classic novel. I have it here. And there's this one character in here who's Jewish. And at first I was like, oh my God, I'm being represented. Thank you, Kevin. But he made that character so stereotyped and offensive. This character, like Mordecai de Efrusi, is a name dropper, a social climber, greedy, only thinks about money. And I was like, you did one Jewish character in this book and you chose to make him the money-hungry, social climbing bigot? Also, you could have made any character Jewish. Like, you didn't need to make that character Jewish. In the classic, that guy is a Christian pastor. So I don't understand why you needed to make him Jewish. Like, what exactly were you trying to achieve? I felt so offended. Kevin, do better. Do better. Okay, now we have my fantasy stash. The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. The Wise Man's Fear by Patrick Rothfuss, which is book 2. He has not come out with book 3 yet. It's been 10 years and waiting. A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. A Gathering of Shadows by V.E. Schwab, which is book 2 in this series. The Killing Moon by N.K. Jemisin. The Lies of Locke Lamora by Scott Lynch. The Goose Girl by Shannon Hale. So I read this series when I was 12 and I loved it. And then I found this in Goodwill this year and I reread it and then I still love it. Like, the fact that this can hold up in sophistication when I'm 25 just says so much about this series. Although I gave it to my mom to read this year and she hated it, so. Master of the Five Magics by Lyndon Hardy. I have not yet read this. This was written in 1985. I am excited though, vintage fantasy. And for nonfiction, I just have 2 books, really just my textbooks. Screenplay by Sid Field. Amazing book if you want to learn how to write a screenplay. And Reality TV by Troy DeVold. Also amazing if you want to learn more about producing, especially in the reality TV realm. Okay, so I know that South America is missing from this pile. Like, literally on my book list is 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. So I will be delving into South American literature soon. I also want to hit Mexican literature. I know I have nothing from Mexico. I'm sorry, I'll get there. But until next time, Earthlings.